Paul Heyman confronts Adam Pearce over Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed backstage Raw. This is outrageous. Paul Heyman just destroyed Adam Pearce in the most heated backstage confrontation we've seen in years, demanding that WWE management take action on the Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed situation, and what Adam Pearce said back will make your blood boil. This wasn't just a conversation, this was an assassination of WWE's authority structure, and I'm about to reveal exactly what Heyman said that is WWE management in chaos in the locker room and rebellion. If you're as furious as I am about what transpired backstage, obliterate that like button and tell me in the comments if Paul Heyman just exposed WWE's incompetence. This confrontation changes everything, and we're breaking down every explosive word. Let's go! Before we dive into the nuclear confrontation between Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce, we need to understand why this meeting happened. Following last week's disgusting betrayal where Bron Breakker attacked his tag team partner Bronson Reed, WWE management has been under intense pressure to respond. Fans have been demanding action. Social media is flooded with calls for Bron to be suspended, fined, or stripped of his championship. The WWE Universe wants justice for Bronson Reed, and they want it now. But here's where it gets interesting. Paul Heyman has been unusually vocal about this situation. For those who don't know, Heyman currently represents several clients in WWE, and he's been backstage at Raw as a special consultant for creative direction. Over the past week, Heyman has been posting cryptic messages on social media hinting at management failures and lack of leadership. He's been dropping bombs in interviews, saying things like when I ran ECW, betrayals had consequences. Where are the consequences now? This caught Adam Pearce's attention. As Raw's on-screen general manager, Pearce is responsible for maintaining order and making matches. Heyman's public criticism was essentially calling Pearce incompetent. Monday night's Raw opened with Adam Pearce in his office, reviewing footage of last week's betrayal, clearly trying to make a decision about how to handle the situation. Cameras showed him on the phone, presumably with WWE executives, looking stressed. Then, without warning, Paul Heyman burst into the office. No appointment, no courtesy knock, just barging in like he owned the place. The look on Pearce's face was priceless, a mixture of shock, annoyance, and concern. What followed was 10 minutes of the most intense, unscripted feeling confrontation we've seen on WWE programming. And when I say unscripted feeling, I mean it felt real. The passion, the anger, the frustration, it all seemed genuine. Quick question for the comments, do you think this confrontation was scripted or shoot, real? Paul Heyman didn't waste any time with pleasantries. He walked into Adam Pearce's office, pointed his finger directly at Pearce, and unleashed, "Adam, we need to talk about your failure." Heyman's voice was dripping with contempt. "You have failed as a general manager. You have failed the locker room. You have failed the WWE Universe. And most importantly, you have failed Bronson Reed." Pearce tried to respond, but Heyman wasn't having it. "No, you don't get to talk yet. You get to listen because I'm about to explain to you how real management works." The camera work was perfect, tight shot on Heyman's face, capturing every expression, every micro-emotion. You could see the fire in his eyes. This wasn't just Paul Heyman the character, this felt like Paul Heyman the person. Last week, Bron Breakker committed one of the most heinous acts in recent WWE history. Heyman continued, pacing back and forth like a lawyer in a courtroom. He betrayed his partner. He attacked a defenseless man. He stole championship gold. And what did you do? Nothing. Heyman slammed his hand on Pearce's desk, making everyone jump. Where was the immediate suspension? Where was the fine? Where was the championship stripping? Where was the justice that Bronson Reed deserves? The passion in Heyman's delivery was incredible. He wasn't just reciting lines, he was feeling every word. His voice cracked at certain points, showing genuine emotion. "I have been in this business for 40 years, Adam," Heyman emphasized. "I've worked with the greatest minds in wrestling history. I've managed companies. And I'm telling you right now, your inaction is unacceptable." Pearce finally got a word in. "Paul, you need to calm down," but Heyman cut him off immediately. "Calm down. Calm down." Heyman's voice reached a crescendo. "You want me to calm down while you sit in your comfortable office doing nothing? While Bronson Reed is in a hospital getting checked for injuries? While Bron Breakker walks around this building like he's untouchable?" The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Production crew members were visible in the background, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation but unable to look away. Adam Pearce finally had enough. He stood up from his desk, got face-to-face with Heyman, and fired back. This was a side of Pearce we rarely see, aggressive and defensive. "You want to question my management, Paul?" Pearce's voice was measured but intense. "Let's talk about your management history. Let's talk about ECW going bankrupt under your watch. Let's talk about the countless wrestlers who've accused you of manipulation." Shots fired. The crowd watching on the arena screens gasped. Pearce just brought up Heyman's most controversial period. That's a low blow in wrestling circles. Heyman's face showed shock, then anger. "You want to go there, Adam? Really? Let's compare resumes. I built ECW from nothing. I created stars. I revolutionized this industry. What have you done besides push paper and book basic matches? I keep order, Pearce shouted back. I maintain a functional workplace. I deal with egos like yours every single day. You think you can just waltz in here and tell me how to do my job? Yes, Heyman screamed. Because you're failing at your job. Look at the chaos in your locker room. Bron Breakker attacked Bronson Reed. Seth Rollins is feuding with half the roster. The Judgment Day runs wild. Where is the authority? Where is the control? Pearce got even closer, their faces inches apart. You think I want chaos? You think I enjoy dealing with situations like Bron and Bronson? I'm working with WWE officials to determine the appropriate response. Working with officials, Heyman mocked. Translation: you're passing the buck. You're afraid to make a decision. A real general manager would have acted immediately. A real general manager considers all factors, Pearce countered. Contract implications, legal ramifications, storyline continuity. This isn't ECW where you could just do whatever you wanted. ECW had balls, Heyman shot back. ECW had leadership. What does Raw have? A general manager who hides behind corporate bureaucracy. The verbal warfare was relentless. Neither man was backing down. This was pure testosterone and ego clashing. Then Heyman dropped a bomb that changed everything. You know what, Adam? Maybe you're not the problem. Maybe the problem is that WWE has become so corporate, so sanitized, so afraid of real consequences that people like you can't do what's right. Heyman's statement hung in the air like a nuclear cloud. He just accused WWE corporate structure of being the problem. That's unprecedented for a WWE personality to say on camera. You want to know what really happened? Heyman continued, his voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. I'll tell you. Last week, right after Bron attacked Bronson, I went to WWE executives. I demanded immediate action. You know what they said. Pearce looked uncomfortable. Paul, don't. They said to let it play out. Heyman revealed. They said, it's good television. It's generating buzz. Let's see where it goes. They prioritized ratings over justice, over safety, over basic human decency. This was huge. Heyman was pulling back the curtain on WWE's decision-making process. Fans eating this up because it felt like insider information. So don't you dare act like you're the one making decisions, Adam. Heyman pointed his finger again. You're a puppet. You do what the suits tell you. You have no real power. You're just the face they put on camera to absorb the fan anger. Pearce's face showed hurt. Whether it was character work or genuine emotion, it was powerful. That's not fair, Paul, he said quietly. Fair? Heyman laughed bitterly. Nothing about this is fair. It's not fair to Bronson Reed who got attacked. It's not fair to the fans who want justice. It's not fair to the other wrestlers who are watching this and thinking, if Bron can get away with it, I can too. Then Heyman made his demand clear. Here's what's going to happen, Adam. You're going to go to those executives. You're going to fight for your authority. And you're going to make 3 things happen. First, Bron Breakker is suspended without pay for at least 30 days for his attack on Bronson Reed. Second, the tag team championships are stripped from Bron and awarded to a deserving team through a tournament. Third, when Bron returns, he faces Bronson Reed in a no disqualification match where Bronson gets his revenge. The demands were clear, specific, and popular with fans. This is exactly what the WWE Universe has been calling for. Pearce took a deep breath. Paul, I can't or won't. Heyman interrupted. Those are very different things, Adam. Are you unable to make these calls, or are you unwilling to fight for them? What do you think Adam Pearce should do? Comment below. Then Heyman dropped another bomb that sent shockwaves through the conversation. He revealed something that changed the entire context of the situation. You want to know why I'm really here, Adam? Heyman's voice shifted to something more calculated. I'm here representing 15 wrestlers from the Raw locker room who asked me to be their spokesperson. What? 15 wrestlers sent Heyman to confront Pearce? This was a near mutiny. Pearce's eyes went wide. What are you talking about? Heyman pulled out a piece of paper from his jacket. Right here. 15 signatures from Raw superstars who are fed up with the lack of consequences for Bron Breakker's actions. They feel unsafe. They feel like if you won't protect Bronson Reed, you won't protect them. The camera zoomed in on the paper. While we couldn't see the signatures clearly, probably for storyline protection, the visual of Heyman holding evidence was powerful. These 15 wrestlers came to me because they know I'm not afraid to speak truth to power. Heyman continued. They know I'll fight for what's right. They know I understand how this business should work. Pearce looked shaken. A locker room rebellion is a general manager's worst nightmare. Paul, if the locker room has concerns, there are proper channels. Heyman exploded again. The proper channels have failed. That's why they came to me. That's why I'm standing in your office right now. Because the proper channels are broken. Then Heyman revealed the names of 3 of the 15, and they were big names. Xavier Woods signed this. Kofi Kingston signed this. Ricochet signed this. These are respected locker room leaders, Adam. This isn't just a few disgruntled lower card guys. The weight of that revelation was massive. If main roster veterans are organizing against management, that's a serious problem. What do you think happens when word gets out that 15 wrestlers don't trust their general manager? Heyman posed the question. What do you think happens when fans learn that the locker room is in revolt? Pearce was scrambling. Paul, I need time to process this. I need to talk to these wrestlers individually. Time. Heyman's voice dripped with sarcasm. Bronson Reed needed immediate help last week. He didn't get time to prepare for Bron's attack. But you need time? That's convenient. Adam Pearce, backed into a corner, finally mounted a defense of WWE's corporate structure and his position. This is where the conversation got really interesting from a business perspective. You want the truth, Paul? Pearce's tone changed to something more real. Fine. Here's the truth. I wanted to suspend Bron immediately. I wanted to strip him of the titles. But it's not that simple anymore. Heyman folded his arms. Explain. WWE is a publicly traded company now. Pearce explained. Every decision has legal ramifications, financial implications, sponsor considerations. I can't just act on emotion like you could in ECW. There are layers to every decision. This was WWE acknowledging its corporate reality on camera. That's rare and fascinating. Bron Breakker has a contract. Pearce continued. That contract has specific language about suspensions and fines. If I suspend him without following proper protocol, he could sue, and WWE would lose. Is that what you want? Heyman leaned in. So you're saying WWE's own contracts prevent you from disciplining wrestlers who attack their partners? I'm saying it's complicated. Pearce shot back. The legal department is reviewing the incident. The HR department is investigating. There's a process, Paul. Process. Heyman spat the word like it was poison. You hide behind process while wrestlers bleed. You hide behind legal while justice is delayed. You hide behind corporate while the locker room loses faith. Pearce slammed his own desk. What do you want from me, Paul? You want me to go rogue? Defy WWE management? Risk my job? For what? To satisfy your ego. To do what's right. Heyman roared. To show that WWE actually cares about wrestler safety. To demonstrate that actions have consequences. To prove that you're more than a corporate puppet. The intensity was off the charts. Both men were sweating. This felt like a real argument, not a scripted segment. Pearce took a different approach. Let me ask you something, Paul. You represent clients, right? You're an advocate. If one of your clients did what Bron did, would you demand they be suspended and stripped of their titles? Checkmate. Pearce just put Heyman in a difficult position. Heyman paused, then smirked. If one of my clients betrayed their partner, I would have counseled them against it. I would have explained the long-term consequences. But if they did it anyway, I would expect WWE management to enforce the rules fairly. That's called accountability, Adam. So you admit there's nuance. Pearce pounced. You admit that not every situation has a simple solution. I admit that you're using corporate complexity as an excuse for inaction. Heyman fired back. The conversation reached a turning point when both men, exhausted from the verbal warfare, seemed to realize they needed to find some kind of resolution. This is where master storytelling took over. Adam Pearce sat back down, rubbed his temples, and took a deep breath. Okay, Paul. Okay. What if we could find a middle ground? Heyman raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. I can't suspend Bron without going through the proper channels, Pearce explained. But I can make his life miserable within the rules. I can book him in difficult matches. I can put the championships in jeopardy. I can create situations where he's forced to defend himself. Heyman considered this. Continue. Next week, I can announce that due to the tag team championship situation, there will be a fatal four-way match, Pearce proposed. For tag teams competing, winner gets a championship opportunity. This starts building toward a resolution. Not enough. Heyman shook his head. What about Bronson? What about his justice? I can give Bronson a guaranteed rematch against Bron. Pearce offered. One-on-one. No disqualification. At the next premium live event. That gives Bronson time to heal and prepare for his revenge. Heyman paced, thinking. And the suspension. I'll fine Bron $50,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct. Pearce compromised. It's the maximum I can fine without executive approval. And I'll make him defend his position in a series of qualifying matches. Qualifying matches? Heyman questioned. If Bron wants to keep those championships, he has to prove he deserves them. Pearce explained. Every week, he faces a top contender. If he loses once, the championships are vacated. It's not a suspension, but it's accountability. Heyman stroked his chin, considering the proposal. The camera work captured every micro-expression. Fans at home were on the edge of their seats waiting for Heyman's response. "You're asking me to accept a compromise," Heyman finally spoke. "To tell those 15 wrestlers that half measures are enough. To tell Bronson Reed that his justice will be delayed but eventually served. I'm asking you to work within the system to achieve your goals," Pearce countered. "Sometimes the perfect is the enemy of the good, Paul. We can make Bron's life hell while still following WWE protocols." This was brilliant storytelling. Real-world corporate limitations versus old-school justice mentality. The audience could see both sides. What would you do in this situation? Accept the compromise or keep fighting? Comment your answer. The moment of truth arrived. Paul Heyman had to make a decision. Would he accept Adam Pearce's compromise, or would he continue the fight? The tension was unbearable. Heyman stood silently for what felt like an eternity. The camera held on his face, capturing every thought processing behind his eyes. This is masterclass acting from Heyman. Finally, he spoke. "Adam, I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to acknowledge that you might be right about the constraints you're operating under." Pearce looked shocked. He wasn't expecting Heyman to concede anything. However, Heyman raised a finger. "I'm accepting your proposal with one additional condition." "What condition?" Pearce asked cautiously. "I want to be appointed as Bronson Reed's advocate," Heyman declared. "I want to be in his corner when he faces Bron. I want to ensure that when that no disqualification match happens, Bronson has someone who will fight for his interests." This was huge. Heyman aligning with Bronson Reed? That changes everything about the dynamic. And, Heyman continued, "I want it announced tonight. I want Bron Breakker to know that Bronson doesn't stand alone, that he has the greatest advocate in wrestling history in his corner." Pearce considered this. "If I agree to this, you'll accept the rest of my proposal? The fine, the qualifying matches, the eventual no DQ match. I'll take your proposal to the 15 wrestlers who signed that petition." Heyman responded. "I'll present it as a win, a step toward accountability, and I'll use my position as Bronson's advocate to ensure full justice is served." Pearce extended his hand. "Then we have a deal." Heyman looked at the hand for a long moment. The symbolism was powerful, two men who just had a nuclear argument finding common ground. Finally, Heyman shook Pearce's hand. "But, Adam," Heyman's voice turned serious, "if you betray this agreement, if corporate forces you to back down, if Bron doesn't face those consequences we just outlined, I will make your life a living hell. I will use every connection, every media platform, every ounce of influence I have to expose the failure of WWE management." "Understood." Pearce nodded grimly. "Understood. And Paul? If you use this advocate position to manipulate the situation for your own benefit, if this becomes about your ego instead of Bronson's justice, I'll remove you as his advocate and you'll never step foot in a WWE ring again." "Understood." Heyman smirked. "Understood. Now let's make this official." The confrontation ended, but the impact was just beginning. Later that night on Raw, Adam Pearce appeared in the ring with a microphone to make his announcement to the WWE Universe. "Ladies and gentlemen, earlier tonight, I had a very difficult conversation with Paul Heyman regarding the Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed situation," Pearce began. The crowd was buzzing. "I've heard your voices. I've read your comments. I've seen your passion. You want action. You want accountability. And tonight, I'm delivering both." The crowd roared with approval. Pearce laid out the plan, effective immediately. Bron Breakker is fined $50,000 for his attack on Bronson Reed. Furthermore, Bron will defend his claim to the Raw Tag Team Championships in a series of qualifying matches against top contenders. The crowd was eating it up. If Bron loses even once, those championships will be declared vacant. Pearce continued. "And at our next premium live event, Bron Breakker will face Bronson Reed in a no disqualification match." Huge pop from the crowd. That's the match everyone wanted. And finally, Pearce paused for effect. "I am announcing that Bronson Reed has chosen an advocate. Someone to represent his interests. Someone to ensure justice is served." The crowd was on the edge of their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen, Bronson Reed's advocate is Paul Heyman." The place erupted. Heyman's music hit and he walked out to a standing ovation. Fans were chanting ECW, ECW, and Heyman, Heyman. Heyman entered the ring, shook Pearce's hand for the cameras, and grabbed a microphone. "Bron Breakker," Heyman's voice boomed. "You made the biggest mistake of your career. You thought you could betray your partner and walk away unpunished. You thought WWE management would protect you. You were wrong." The crowd was loving this. "My name is Paul Heyman, and I am now the advocate for Bronson Reed," Heyman proclaimed. "And I promise you this, Bron, in that no disqualification match, you will face consequences. You will feel pain. And you will learn that in this company, under this management, betrayal has a price. The segment ended with Heyman's music playing, the crowd chanting, and Adam Pearce looking satisfied. They had turned a crisis into compelling television. The fallout from this confrontation and announcement has been massive. Let me break down the reactions from every corner of the wrestling world. Twitter exploded with praise for both the confrontation and the resolution. Fans were calling it the best backstage segment in years. The hashtag Heyman vs Pearce was trending worldwide. That is how you do compelling television, one tweet with 100k likes declared. Real emotion, real stakes, real consequences. Paul Heyman just reminded everyone why he's the greatest promo in wrestling history, another popular tweet stated. Adam Pearce stood his ground against Heyman and earned my respect. Fans were praising Pearce too. The few negative reactions complained that it pulled back the curtain too much or exposed the business, but these were minority opinions. Dave Meltzer gave the segment 4.5 stars. This is the kind of segment that makes casual fans into hardcore fans. Layers, nuance, passion. Brian Alvarez raved, Heyman and Pearce just delivered a masterclass in verbal combat. I was glued to my screen. Wade Keller wrote, WWE just proved they can do serious storytelling when they commit. This wasn't comedy, this wasn't supernatural nonsense, this was real wrestling drama. Multiple WWE superstars praised the segment. Cody Rhodes tweeted, that's how you create must-see TV. Bravo to both Paul and Adam. Seth Rollins posted, Heyman still got it. That man could sell ice to Eskimos. Incredible segment. Becky Lynch commented, we need more of this. Real conversations about real issues. Well done. According to reports, the locker room gave both Heyman and Pearce a standing ovation when they returned backstage. The segment was seen as elevating everyone involved. WWE executives were reportedly thrilled with the segment. It generated buzz, created long-term storylines, and satisfied fan demand for accountability. Ross ratings for that segment were the highest of the night. Social media engagement spiked. WWE stock even got a small bump from the positive reception. The merchandise department immediately started designing Heyman Advocate shirts for Bronson Reed. The business opportunities from this angle are huge. So what's next in this compelling storyline? Let me map out the likely trajectory based on what we've seen. Bron Breakker's first qualifying match against a top contender. Paul Heyman accompanies Bronson Reed during his recovery. Weekly segments showing Bron struggling with the pressure. Heyman cuts promos building toward the no DQ match. Bron successfully, barely, survives the qualifying matches. Heyman and Bronson develop their advocate/client relationship. Other wrestlers get involved, choosing sides. Build intensifies toward the premium live event Bronson Reed vs Bron Breakker, no disqualification. Heyman at ringside as Bronson's advocate. Brutal match showcasing both men. Bronson gets his revenge with Heyman's strategic help. Bron loses but isn't buried, setting up future opportunities. Paul Heyman becomes a regular on-screen presence. Adam Pearce's authority is strengthened through successful management. The accountability storyline continues with other situations. Bronson Reed elevated to upper card status. This storyline has legs. It can run for months with proper booking. The key is maintaining the intensity and following through on the promises made. Wrestling newsletter family, the Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce confrontation was television gold. This is what happens when WWE trusts two professionals to deliver a real, emotionally charged segment. Paul Heyman reminded us why he's the GOAT advocate. His passion, his articulation, his ability to make every word matter, that's decades of experience on display. He took a good segment and made it legendary. Adam Pearce proved he's more than just an authority figure. He stood toe-to-toe with Paul Heyman and held his own. He showed vulnerability, strength, and ultimately intelligence by finding a compromise that serves everyone. This confrontation accomplished everything good storytelling should. It advanced multiple storylines. It created new dynamics. It satisfied fan demands. It built toward future matches. It made everyone involved look strong. The Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed situation now has layers. It's not just a simple revenge story. It's about accountability, corporate structure, locker room politics, and the power of advocacy. That's complex, adult storytelling. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Who won the confrontation, Heyman or Pearce? Are you excited about Heyman representing Bronson Reed? Should more confrontations be this real and intense? Rate this segment on a scale of 1 to 10. If Paul Heyman is your GOAT advocate, smash that like button. If you respect Adam Pearce's handling of this situation, hit that like button too. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter for daily analysis of WWE's best storytelling. Share this video with every wrestling fan who appreciates quality segments. This is what WWE is capable of when they let it happen. Hit that notification bell for all updates on this developing situation. Final question, who should Bron face in his first qualifying match? Give me your pick in the comments. This has been Wrestling Newsletter, and remember, when wrestling embraces real emotion and legitimate conflict, magic happens. The Heyman Pearce confrontation was a masterclass. Now let's see if WWE follows through on these promises. Until next time, believe in great storytelling, demand accountability, and never stop appreciating the art of professional wrestling. Peace out.